Hey guys, welcome back to another order opening with the Mountain Bike Shed. We're a local bike shop here in St. Louis, Missouri, about 20 minutes outside of downtown, right by Six Flags St. Louis. A ton of great camping opportunities, KOAs, cool old hotels, plenty of things. So if you're swinging through, please stop by and visit us on your way down to Arkansas or cross country or whatever you may be doing. A lot to check out here. I think our out-of-town visitors are always impressed by our selection of mountain bike gear, no matter where they're from. So really cool. Come by and see us. We'll jump right into it. I had a few items come in this week that I thought were really neat. That might be valuable to a lot of our customers, especially entry-level riders. So pretty neat. We'll jump right into it. I got a close-up camera here so I can really show you guys what's happening. But we'll jump right into the box and kind of see what we got today. The first thing is actually the KS, so Kind Shock is, they make a lot of different droppers, especially. This is an externally routed dropper. So if you do not have routing for your dropper, if there's not a hole in your down tube, if there's not a way for you to internally route the cables like most droppers are, then you can grab now the e20. So the e20 is nice. It's a step up from KS's e10. The e10 has a cable that attaches up here towards the head. And what happens when you drop your seat post, the cable obviously is attached there. So it creates this huge loop that's all over the place, probably hitting your wheel. And it's just, not that reliable for everyday use. So we do sell them at shop or here in the shop because they're fairly cheap. But always with kind of the presence of, this is not something you're going to want to use all ride, every ride. But anyhow, the E20 is a bit more reliable. It runs around 180 bucks, 200 bucks, but less than 200. And the cable attachment is right here at the collar. So that's going to be really important. So that way, as the actuation of your dropper goes up and down, the cable is staying static in one place. So that's really neat. We did just install one for a customer. It's actually the second one we had to purchase for him. We originally went with 150, but this, you can see how long this shaft is here. There's my small can of Red Bull. We do free Red Bulls in shop every Saturday if you're passing through. But a big issue is this has got, it's a pretty long area here. So it'll run into your water bottle bosses, or if you have a bend in your frame or something on the seat tube, then you may not be able to stick it down. So really be cautious, look at the numbers, make sure you get a measurement on what your seat height is, and make sure you're going to have something short enough. With our customer, I did not quite figure that out short enough. So yeah, keep that in mind. The Kind Shock, really cool, externally routed E20. It's cheap, it's affordable. Get a good lever though with it. I think anytime we're talking droppers, we need to make sure we get good levers. Don't think I have a wolf tooth one behind me at the moment. But yeah, get a wolf tooth lever. It's actually got a bearing in there to kind of make a nice smooth action. So whatever dropper you buy, get a wolf tooth lever and you will thank yourself for that. Pretty cool. So yeah, that's really nice for especially your kind of sub $1,000 hardtails. You need to measure your seat post diameter, and then you can measure up how tall your seat is, and then see how much length you're actually going to be able to stick into that seat tube. So maybe give yourself a little bit extra room. Typically on a small frame, nothing bigger than 100. On a medium, 125 probably tops on these style. And then on your large frames, maybe you can get away with something a little bit longer. But either way, I would kind of err on the shorter side as far as maybe a dropper you would normally put on, just because of the design of these. Yeah, next we've got Rock and Roll. So this is Rock and Roll's Holy Cow. Holy Cow is definitely our most popular lube from Rock and Roll. We love Rock and Roll in general. Company is owned by a really cool cyclist, super nice guy. It's made here in the US. So Rock and Roll, very neat stuff. They have very specific directions on their lubes. I'll read it. Shake well, apply a stream of lube to the chain at the cassette. Do not drip on the lube like oil, because it's not oil. Get the chain really wet with lube. Freewheel the chain backwards slowly to get the dirt to come to the surface. Wipe it all off. Wipe the chain after riding to ensure cleanness. Holy Cow is a little on the wet side, so after applying, after applying for a day or so. Holy Cow works great in cold weather, but needs to be applied when warm on a warm chain. But yeah, really cool. You got to make sure you shake up your lube really well. It'll all kind of settle here in the bottom. It's in a clear bottle, so you can see that. But yeah, shake it up really well. Apply it liberally. There's going to be a little puddle under your bike, so maybe put a towel there. If you're trying to elevate your rear wheel, a really good way to do it in your garage, you're going to have 2x4 studs. Just take another 2x4, stick it straight out, maybe put one at an angle for a brace, but then you can hang your seat from that little ledge you have sticking out. So that's really great way to get your bike up in the air, even if you don't have a clamp or a nice park tool stand, like the one here next to me. But yeah, get that rear wheel off the ground, pedal backwards so you're not getting lube all over your rotors, and then wipe it all back off. So I think that's a mistake we see a lot of people make when bikes come in. They're just full of dirt. You don't want to leave that lube on there. It's just we're trying to lube the actual rollers between the links of the chain. So apply it liberally, get it all the way down in there, help it to pull that dirt out, and then wipe everything right back off. And again, most lubes you're going to have to wait some period of time for it to dry. Can you go ride? Yeah, it's just going to mostly fling off. So keep that in mind if you aren't giving it the kind of overnight to settle. Maybe a night before your ride, lube your chain up. I say lube your chain every ride. Maybe every 3 to 5 rides is fine, but especially 12-speed stuff, those components are all so thin. We're talking expensive, couple $100 cassettes sometimes. So let's keep everything clean. Let's keep everything lubed proper. Your drivetrain's gonna be quieter. Your components are gonna last longer. So do that. Holy cow. That is my favorite lube of all time. Any of the Holy Cow products are good. We've got Cable Magic in here. So Cable Magic is another rock and roll product. We use this on like older bikes, maybe if the customer didn't want to do full cable and housing, maybe as we would have recommended for them. But Cable Magic's really nice. Again, you really have to shake this stuff. It's a super thick lubricant, so shake well. That's the only directions you get. It hugely says shake well. Again, this is why this company is so cool, why we love rock and roll. The guy who owns it and who's making lube every day in his warehouses here in the United States is just hilarious. So only direction you need is shake well. We use it a lot of times on brakes that are kind of sticky, even though they should probably be replaced. Again, if we're not in a position to be able to do that, or like I'm restoring an old Schwinn in the back, it's got some unique vintage old cables. They want to kind of keep it the original look. The bike's not really going to be ridden much, so we're going to use Cable Magic to do that. If your bike has weird routing, weird shift cable routing, or anywhere where you're worried about things sticking, again, you can kind of apply that, help slicken up your cables, maybe either get a little bit of longer use. So it's kind of, I guess, maybe best for when you're in a pinch. So if you go out riding and your bike's not shifting back into the high gears very smoothly, having that in your bag, having that in your tool bag in your vehicle will allow you to be able to ride the rest of the day, possibly by putting a drop or two in the end of your housing and maybe running a new cable through. So that's, again, like when we think about things we need to keep in our pack or in our vehicle as a mountain biker, I think a master link's really important thing that you should keep in your pack. It's lightweight, and a shift cable is a really good idea of something to keep in your bag. It doesn't take up any space. They're super lightweight. Your kind of nicer ones for nicer drivetrains are going to run you $15 or so. You can get a cheap one for maybe $5, but invest in a little bit nicer one, throw it in your bag, have your roll of electrical tape, your cable, and your master link in a tube, and you'll be, pretty much bomb-proof out there. So do that. Along the lines of lubes, we got some just suspension oil. Maxima is a nice company. I'm not going to get too deep into that. I know a lot of you guys aren't rebuilding suspensions, but Maxima is really nice stuff. So we like what they do. They do a good job. Now here's the kind of cool one. So this is something we use a lot in the shop, and it came up last night as I was working on a bike. We realized people just really aren't performing maintenance the way they should be. So products like TriFlow can help solve that problem. So we use TriFlow. Well, TriFlow's got a couple different variants. You can get foaming varieties. You can get the lubricant here. We use this for the pivot points on like derailleurs. So let's say you're using a degreaser on your derailleur and you're spraying everything down, you're getting everything cleaned up. Afterwards, then you've just basically sprayed a degreaser all over your derailleur. So what do we need to do from there? We need to make sure we're lubing things back up, and utilizing something like TriFlow is very important. Again, for that ability for your shifter to function properly, for it to come back down into the higher gears and to return, we want to make things as easy as possible by using lubrication, by making sure we're putting, you know, this has a cool little straw on it. So you can actually apply it upwards. You can get in all kinds of weird little places. Your front derailleur, your rear derailleur, all those little pivot points on there. If you want your bike to shift well, then every time you lube your chain, then maybe put a little drop of this lube on there as well. You don't want to go crazy. Anytime we're talking about lubes or greases, it's important to keep in mind that you can overdo things. So don't go too crazy, because you will end up just attracting more dirt and creating more of a problem. So, you know, if you go a little heavier on stuff, maybe take a little bit more time to get back in there and do it again. So more suspension lube, fun. So the kind of other thing we've got in here is valve stems. So Stan's valve stems, some E13s. I just kind of grabbed some random filler valve stems. That's something you need to be watching out on as well. Ideally, you are putting air in your tires before every ride. You need to check that. Slight variance in 2 psi, that could be, you know, up to 10-15% of your, or 15 to 20% of your tire pressure. So a big change like that, that's your contact patch with the ground. That's how you're keeping control of your bike. We need to make sure we're at the right tire pressure. And it's going to be really hard to do that if you're running tubeless and your valves are all gunked up. Now, if you look at this, this has got little slots off to the side on these E13s. Muck-Off does the same thing. It's going to be hard to see on black in the package. But it's most of your normal valve stems, like these Stan's ones here. See if I can get real close up to the camera if I can find it. It's just a single hole in the bottom, and there's no slots here in this little bottom grommet. So what's going to happen with that, if you have cush core, if you're running a tire insert, it's going to be really hard to get air in or out of that. So by having these little channels or grooves in the bottom of our valve stem, it allows for the air to pass through even if you're running an insert. Another thing to keep in mind, and it's going to be easy to see on this guy, is your valve core. So, you know, every time you change your sealant, which should be every 4 to 6 months, then get a tool on, replace your valve core. Valve cores are going to run you maybe $5, opposed to the whole valve stem. If it's something anodized, could be like $15 for each one. But you can replace just the core and then clean out that valve stem as well. So yeah, make sure you're taking care of these maintenance things. We got to get the shop opened up, so I'll end it there for today. Just kind of repair parts and stuff in there. Go to mtbshed.com, subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/mtbshed, and then come see us in store. See ya.